I have to take that off. I can't stand hearing myself in my left ear. Okay, should be good to go there. It doesn't look like we have anyone here yet, but we can go ahead and start talking. Uh, so for whenever people do get here, um, those of you who don't know, my co-host is Kelli from Kelli Reads a Lot. Kelli, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you. Nice. No. All right, sounds good. So I figure we'll probably start with a setting and summary of the book, just to kind of refresh anyone's memory, especially since it's been a while now. On a distant planet in the future, people from Earth left, settled on this other planet. What was it, about 1,000 years? Which, how much history they remember after 1,000? Uh, Apparently, a very good pilot. He and Hallie both end up getting offered to go on this secret mission. Although I am impressed that they still have copies of the Odyssey on this world years ahead of us, at least. Yeah, the almost few things I came over with the people from Earth. Yeah, see if I can get my live chat to come up. It's not coming up on here, so I'll have to use YouTube. So she can. Try that. Right. See if you can hear Kelli now. And now she can't hear me.
Oh no.
Okay, can you guys hear either one of us?
Hello, hello.
Oh, well, that doesn't help. It got muted.
Oh no.
I didn't do that. Okay, can you guys hear us now?
Can you hear us now? It sounds like that cell phone commercial.
Right. Can you hear me now?
Hello, hello.
Oh, okay. Now that we can hear us. It got muted.
Oh no.
I didn't do that.
Okay. Hopefully they can hear us and they're not hearing background stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. So at this point, what did you like about it? What did you not like about it? Without going into spoilers at this point. I think for the most part, I really liked anything to do with the world building. I liked learning about the world. I liked seeing the magic.
Much brattiness. It's just like you can just go on social media for that. You don't need to read a book about people being brats.
Yeah.
I feel like the writer is an amazing storyteller. No, is this like her first novel? Do you know?
I believe so.
It felt like a first novel to me. It's just like she was a beautiful storyteller, but not and people being brats. It may possibly be because my only library option for this book was audio, and I think I would. There were times where the writing was very stilted, especially in dialogue. To me, dialogue, especially between. She was a beautiful story.
Okay. Sorry, trying to fix audio all at the same time. Because I know we're getting some. I know I had it with Jess last month too, where it's like you can almost hear yourself twice, and I don't know what's causing that or how to get rid of it. And then people could either hear one of us or not both of us.
Audio
Yeah.
all at the same time.
Like kind of like a reverbration happening.
Because I know we're getting some.
I know I had it. And the bad thing is in my headphones, I can hear us on YouTube. And so I'm hoping that's not coming through because people didn't even hear us 10 seconds apart. And that's the same. I could either hear one of us or not both of us.
That's frustrating.
So,
Like kind of like a
right,
reverberation happening.
Yeah, I guess we'll see if I fixed it. I don't know. The bad thing is in my headphones, I can hear us on YouTube. And so I'm hoping that's not coming through because people didn't even hear us 10 seconds apart. But yeah, I guess we'll just move on to the first question. And at this point, we will potentially be going more into spoilers. So if you don't want to be spoiled for the book, feel free to leave. But if you don't mind being spoiled or you have read the book, feel free to continue with us. So now we'll talk about Hallie and Case specifically. So their interactions
at this point,
we will
and
potentially be
how
going
their
over
relationship changed
during the
during the
book.
book.
So if you don't want to be spoiled for the book,
Yeah.
feel free. I think my biggest thing was just the fact that But if you don't mind being spoiled, Hallie you have initially read the book, being feel free to annoyed continue with so now we'll talk
It's
about
felt
Hallie
very
Earnest
unwarranted.
specifically.
Yeah,
Their
her
interactions
problems were a lot of her own
and
creating,
how their relationship
in my
changed
opinion,
during the book.
and for her to blame him to,
I think my biggest thing
they
was just
both
the fact
came
that
across as very
Hallie initially being annoyed with
entitled.
so
And that's okay,
now we'll
because
talk
that can
about
sometimes be
felt very
written well,
unwarranted
because
specifically.
people are entitled in real life, and we can create that. But there were times where we could have seen like a very vulnerable moment in that, or and really all that came across was their anger, their irritation, their frustration. And if it would have delved a little bit deeper into, and we got some whys for sure for that, but if we could have just seen more vulnerable moments throughout, until at the towards the end we just got dumped the vulnerable moments, and it was much better, it works better. But if we could have, I feel like, good enemies to lovers shows the humanity and some at least slight compassion for the other person, even at the beginning, to show that these people aren't complete, like, monsters. They have a soul.
Yeah.
And we did see that they did, but it just was very, again, stilted to me.
Mhm. Yeah. And after a while, it really started to feel like the fighting between them was almost forced.
Yeah.
Like we have to keep up that the two of them are fighting
Yeah.
for plot reasons, I guess.
I agree. It didn't make much sense though. It like, because like when they started finding some common ground, and then they would go right back to that. Of course, there's always going to be moments of tension. If tension is what creates plot, and it's, we always do have tension, but um, if you've just kind of had a moment with someone where you've seen their point of view a little bit, you felt for them, you're not going to immediately go back to being just so mad at them and hating their guts. You're just not.
No. The thing is, I thought about this sometime later because I kind of looked at their relationship and I'm like, I don't know how this relationship is supposed to work when they are both so short-tempered. I feel like every time there's going to be any kind of problem with them, they're both just going to blow up.
I felt
And
the same.
yeah.
It almost seemed like sibling interaction to me, which is weird. It did not seem like romantic tension. It seemed like siblings fighting with each other.
Yeah. They're fighting over the dumbest things.
Yeah, exactly. Things like, and that's what you would expect from, like, what you would expect from 12-year-olds, not from older teens.
Right. Because I think she's supposed to be like 18 or 19, I think, and he's like 21.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like, this is not how you would expect people this age to act. But I know there's always like the saying of opposites attract. And it's because whatever your weakness is, usually their strengths will help balance that out. So it's like they both need someone who has a more even temperament, who can kind of mellow them out. They're not going to get that from each other.
That's why a lot of times the enemies to lovers is kind of the grumpy sunshine, because that works and it makes sense. And there are so many examples of people in real life who are that way. You see so many relationships where either the wife's a grump and the husband's optimistic, or vice versa, and it works because they balance each other out, but they were both such,
they're both grumpy,
short-tempered, angry people.
Yeah.
And And it's good that they had some things that were the same. Like they came from a background where they had a loss and, felt guilty over that. And so that was good. I mean, to have some common ground is good, but your common ground can't be your horrible traits.
Yeah, it shouldn't be your weak points.
Yes.
And that was the hard part I was having is as I thought about these two characters more and more. I'm like, they're both hot-headed.
Yeah.
They both lost siblings. They both have issues with at least one of their parents.
Yeah.
Kelli seems to have an issue with her mom. We don't know what it is. And Case very much does with his dad.
Yeah.
And just some of these similarities that they had. There was part of me that was almost like they feel like copy and paste.
Yeah.
Like they feel too similar.
And I was hoping that, like, because I'm interested about, like, the magic and the world building part. I was hoping that, maybe they wouldn't be featured as much in the sequel,
Mm-hmm.
because I know there's a sequel. So I'm curious about what happens next, but I don't know if I could do that much more of them if they're going to be like that.
Yeah. And that's a bad thing. Is I'm like, they could do more with the world building and the magic system, or the author could. But I'm almost afraid that the romance is the central part, and the world building is going to get left behind. And the world building is what I'm interested in.
I know my favorite because I love when romances and fantasy. I love when romances and mystery and things like that. But when it's got to be balanced out by like either a lot, a lot of action. There was some action at different parts, and it seems like that's when they kind of maybe made up or whatever. But I don't feel like the balance was there. Maybe a little bit more of the magic in the story, a little bit more of the world building in the story, and a little bit pulled back on the romance, or even at that much, but not the anger and the hatred and it wasn't fun to read that much anger. You've got to make it, and if you're going to have bad traits, you've got to make it interesting.
Yeah. Like there's got to be, I don't know, more drawbacks to the fact that that's a weakness, so they learn how to overcome it. Or you have someone there who helps them learn how to overcome it.
Yes.
Or at least balance them out.
Yes. I agree.
Okay. So the next question I have were there any parts that didn't make sense to you or that you wish had been expanded on? Obviously, we know mine. I wish there was more world building.
Yeah, I mean, I wish. Okay, so like all of a sudden, like at the end, I can get towards the end stuff, right? I can talk about that now. I mean, what the heck with I'm part Yelvin, let me put my finger on the thing, and we don't expound on it really anymore. She's never given us, except that she has like the ancient work. And she knows the culture. That's the only things, but she's also a scholar, so it made sense. Those things made sense without her being Yavin or whatever. So I feel like we should have gotten some sort of foreshadowing or something. It just seems like it almost felt like we got to throw something to knock their socks off at the end, and it's almost like it hadn't been pre-planned, like it hadn't been in the outline, and we're gonna just throw this in now. And it may have just been the way I felt. That may not have been what it was at all, but it didn't. I mean, I like that twist. I think that's a great twist, but we should have been wondering about her with that, and I wasn't wondering at all. Like I mean, maybe I was just not paying it well enough attention, but I was like, what? And then for nobody to really be like afterwards, for Case not to be, we're gonna have to sit down and have a serious conversation about
remember,
this.
He has amnesia.
Oh yes, he can't remember.
So he can't remember.
Oh yeah.
How convenient.
Starting to come back to him, but that's not one of the things that came back. He started remembering that his brother died and that kind of stuff. But he didn't remember that. So yeah, he was the only one that was there. So It's gonna definitely, and I think that would be interesting for them to explore
Mm-hmm.
in a second book. But it just, I don't know. I think there should be foreshadowing. I think it's more interesting when you can look back and be like, oh my gosh, that's why that was that way. And that,
Mm-hmm.
I always find that so interesting when you can look back at the story and you can see the author did give us some hints.
Right. The only hint that because I actually did wonder if she was going to turn out to be part Yelvin early in the book.
Did you?
Because she had gold eyes.
Oh, yes.
That was one of the key things about the Yelvins is they had gold eyes, and they always made a point of her eyes being gold. But I think that's the only hint that we had. And so it's very easy to overlook.
Yeah.
My biggest issue was the fact that she just randomly decides, oh, let me try cutting my hand and putting it on the door.
Yeah.
There's no hint that she has any idea about this.
Yeah.
I assumed it was going to be some kind of accident, like she got a cut on her hand and they're running and like she slams her hand against the door as it's closing and then it turns gold and it's like, what in the world happened? That I think would have made more sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, the gold eyes thing I picked up on, but I didn't see any other hints of it in the book. Yeah. I think one of the things that I wish had been more expanded on is what actually happened to Case's sister and Hallie's brother.
Yeah.
We're almost given hints about it. We know there was a fire. We know Anna went in to save the boy that she loved. And we get an idea that her brother died in some kind of mining cave-in. Yeah. But that's literally all the information we're given.
Yeah.
No details. No what happened to Niels and Hallie.
It's a big enough deal in the story that we feel like it has some major bearing on the plot. You not just on the character development, on why Hallie and Case are the way they are and why they're having a hard time. It's put in such a way that we're made to think this is a plot development. We're going to learn more, and we didn't. So if she doesn't do anything else with that other than, oh, we're just really heartbroken about losing our siblings that we love, that will be a major thing, I think, because you're leading your audience to believe, I'm going to do something with this is going to be big. And that's what I was led to believe anyway. So
it at least had a big enough impact on them that it's affecting them in the present.
Yeah.
And so as the reader, you at least want details. What actually happened?
Yeah.
And we know that she was either engaged to Niels or they had just talked about getting married, something like that. But then she left. We don't know. We know it was partially because of her brother, but we don't know like what exactly caused the split between her and Niels, where they stand now. We don't know exactly what the problem is with her parents.
Yeah.
There's a lot that we still don't know at the end of this book, even though it was hinted at from the very beginning.
Yeah. And it's okay that we don't know if we get an indication that this is something we're going to deal with, but the way she kind of writes, we're not really sure. Are you just going to leave this alone and we're never going to hear about it again? Or, so that's another reason why I felt like she seemed like this was like a first book, because it didn't have quite the sophistication of dealing with some of those things that someone that maybe it was. And I mean, if this is the first book, great job. I mean, amazing, right? I mean, I could do that well if I sat down to write a book.
I'm fairly certain this is her debut series.
Great storyteller. Just like the writing, I'm sure will grow and she'll be amazing. But like it just lacks some of this, like the I sound like a snob, but like the sophistication that like some more experienced writers might have brought to the same idea.
Right. Do you have anything else, or are we ready to move on to the next one?
Go ahead.
Okay. So the next question that I had is, what are your thoughts on the Yalvs themselves? And these were the original inhabitants of the planet.
I think they are so super cool. they were my favorite part. I loved them.
Right.
More of them. I wish they would have been more of the book. I wish they hadn't been saved for the end, because I feel like if we, had, more of an idea of them. Like, I mean, I was getting excited when we were introduced to them, because it really, like, I felt like layers were starting to build upon layers with, like, them. And so I know that there are still a lot of questions, but I feel like they were the best part of the world building. They were the best part of the book, in my opinion.
Yeah. Like the other things we talked about, there is more to explore. But I feel like we at least still got enough information to keep us satisfied in this
Yeah.
first book, with the hope of getting more in later books.
Yeah.
And I want to know more about their magic, because
Yeah.
that part is really interesting.
Yeah. That's interesting. And we don't 100%, like, how does, like, the dust work. And I mean, I wish I had some of that. That would be great.
I want the teleportation.
Yes, that would be awesome. I know I've always said that if I had a superpower, I'd want it to be teleportation.
Yeah.
I would not tell anybody that was I had that superpower, but I would definitely want that to be my superpower.
Right. I feel like we've talked about them quite a bit, so there may not be as much on this question.
Yes.
But I did at least want to make sure they came up.
They're cool.
Yeah. And we've also kind of talked about this one. What are some of the things you would like to see more of in the second book if you continue? And what do you want to see less of?
So we've already clearly talked about the elves, but I would love to see more of Jove. And I was interested in him, and I feel like he is a very unique character. And he has a loving relationship at home, expecting a baby, but then there's horrible dad,
Right.
And he is willing to just walk away from it all on principle. And I think, like, someone with, like, his, like, moral compass, like, it's interesting because all the sons did have a moral compass, with a father that had none. Where did they get the moral compass? Was it
probably their mother?
Mother seems a little to have a more of one, but she's also seems a little bit she's not distant from her children, but just seems like, as a person, maybe, like, aloof from society. So like, it's interesting. It would be interesting to explore her character too, and see their family dynamics. And, like, I love political fantasies. I hate politics in real life. I will avoid talking about them at all costs. But I love political fantasies. I find that interesting. I think if she might leaned, and of course it's already written, so it's not like, oh, hey, watch our live, in the replay and get some ideas for your next book. But I feel like leading into more of a political fantasy might, with the world building of the elves and all that, might make this, like, a really cool story. And without Hallie and Case being so angry at each other, maybe we could actually get a legitimate romance, like, from them as a side story, and focus a little bit more. Like, I mean, that would be my ideal sequel.
Yeah. I'm glad I'm not the only one who likes politics in books.
Yeah, it's funny because I really enjoy it. And, like, and I don't even mind it when it's not a fantasy. Like, I can sit and watch The West Wing, but, like, in real life, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to, like, it's very important, I realize, but it's not something I want to engage in conversation with other people or focus too much of my energy on. But, like, in books and fiction, it's amazing.
Yeah. I've discovered that when I read multiple books in a series, if there's one that's heavy on the politics, it's going to be my favorite, or at least one of my favorites.
Interesting. So. Yeah. And that's funny how, and maybe it kind of, like, redeems politics for some of us because it makes it interesting, exciting. If there's someone that's ruling that's totally evil, we know that that's just in a book, and that's not real life.
We don't have to live under their rule.
Exactly.
Yep. everything that happens, it affects somebody else. It doesn't affect us.
What happens in the book stays in the book.
Yeah. I try to keep up on politics enough to know what's going on.
Exactly. It's
important. But not too much, because otherwise it stresses me out.
Your kids may be a little bit young still for this, but we really like something called World Watch News. It's like 10 minutes, kid appropriate. You know what's going on in the world. And that's like the one, it's targeted for children. And that's how I get my current event information.
Right. I think I'm also curious to know more about the Searles, because that's the other race on this planet. And I don't remember.
I almost forgot about them because, like, you know, they're evil, like they are portrayed as evil, but they can't all be evil. You know, how did they, like, you know, get the control that they did and all that?
Because I'm trying to remember, were they part of the group that came from Earth, or were they part of the original inhabitants?
I can't remember.
I don't remember now.
They may not have even been from Earth or that planet. They may have come from somewhere else.
That could be. But I feel like we know just enough about them to know they're about to start a war with Kavina.
Yeah.
And they've got that diamond tattoo on their neck.
Yeah.
And I think that's about all we know about them.
Yeah. And they have been, right?
Yeah.
They have been? Okay. I try to remember how that all played out because of
I think somehow he's, if I understood correctly, they have an essence, and the essence that they have possessed him.
And he's only coming, he can come out a little bit and take control here and there. But
either it allows him to, I think usually it allows him to, because he's too weak to take control on his own, is my understanding.
So it was clear that there was something off with that guy. Now, there's some good foreshadowing. She actually did a relatively good job foreshadowing that there was something going on without completely giving it away. Yeah. And I thought that was like, well, kind of well done as far as like foreshadowing. And that wasn't, you know, where you can look back and see, okay, that was weird. That was weird. That was weird. That was weird. Okay. Yeah. I can see how he was possessed this whole time.
Yeah.
So she actually did a pretty good job with that.
Yeah. Is there anything you would want to see less of? I don't know if we covered less of.
Case and Hallie.
As long as they're not fighting.
Yes.
I'm okay with them.
Turbulence, less of that.
Yeah.
There were moments
we can have less bickering.
Like,
that would be great.
Did a really good job, like having them connect and have like romantic moments. So if it was that and less, you know, pettiness.
The bad thing is, I really want Zeke back.
I know
that's gone.
He was a good character.
Of the, is it 5 of them on the ship? He was probably my favorite.
Yeah.
I was sad to see go. Ebba, I don't really feel like I ever got close to, so losing her didn't really bother me at all.
I think I didn't really just super duper connect with anybody on the ship. Yep. Which would, if I had connected to a character, I did feel some empathy for them, but wasn't really super connecting to anyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, Zeke would have been my choice too, of like the person that seemed the most like someone I would want to be friends with in real life.
Yeah. All right. Now the big question. Do you plan to continue this series?
I don't know. I think I might. Right now, my library doesn't have the sequel like on Libby or anything like that. I don't have Kindle Unlimited, so I don't know if I would. I think I might, because I am interested in what happens next. Pure curiosity read, I think.
I'm mostly curious if we're going to get more of those things that we kind of talked about.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think if I read the second book and it's more of what we got in this book, I may not finish it, but I at least want to give the second book a try, I think.
Yeah.
And did you have any comments on anything we didn't talk about? I just want to leave this open just in case.
Not really. I think that covered a lot of it. Yeah, the world building was really interesting with the elves, and like you said, what was the other race? The other ones that we're not sure where they're from.
The Searles.
The Searles. Yeah.
There's a longer name than that, but I don't remember it.
It would be interesting to see like more exploration of them and why they're kind of the way they are too.
Yeah. Yes. Just Miss Zeke's too. Mrs. Zeke too.
Yes.
Um, and I don't know how to get the comments on the screen. I apologize. But Jess also says, I think I might continue, but it won't be right now. I would agree. I think I want a little bit of a break right now and then try
Yeah,
to continue it in a little while.
I agree. But yeah, I think that for this to be her first novel,
Mm-hmm.
I think that like just like this storytelling was really good. So
Mm-hmm.
hopefully like the second one she'll have found like her way a little bit more with like
Yeah.
some of the details that we weren't so keen on. I
Yeah.
bet would
That's why
be
I'm
more.
hopeful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then, final thoughts and what star rating did you give the book?
So I usually don't do star ratings, but I had a feeling you would ask me that question. So I think I'm going to say 3, which
Okay.
3 for me is not bad. I know for 3 for some people
Yeah.
is bad, but 3 for me is not bad. It means that I enjoyed the experience mostly.
Mm-hmm.
And final thoughts are just like it was a good time, but it had flaws.
Yeah. I think I ultimately gave it 3.5.
Okay.
Rounded it up to 4 on Goodreads, but um, there were things that I liked about it, but the things I liked about it, I wanted more of it. And the
Mm-hmm.
parts I didn't like, I wanted less. Especially
Yes.
the bickering. So,
Yes. Agreed.
all right. So I think that's all we have on this book. So I have it this month's pick since we're already a week into March. So the pick for March is it's Magnify by Stephanie Lazinski. Storm and Spire is the name of the series, and that's the big print you have on the book. And I didn't realize this. This is also self published. I thought this was done by Enclave, but the back of the book says, I think it says like Ingram Connect, which would be Ingram Spark, I think. So it's actually self published. And it's very short. It's actually less than 300 pages. So, and I've only read the first chapter so far, but I am very intrigued. So,
Oh wow. I might have to join in. I have a lot of middle grade that I'm trying to get through, but yeah, that sounds fun.
yeah, it was supposed to be an adult book in March. And when I was looking this one up, everything I found was said it was adult. But then when I went to post it on Instagram last month, everything said YA.
Oh,
So, oops. But it is really interesting so far. It's set in a fantasy world. There are dragons in it that the people
yay.
have to make offerings to protect them, but they're not so sure that they're actually doing their job, I think, if I understood the premise correctly. So, but it is interesting so far. And my co-host for next month will be Chantel from Chantel Reads All Day.
So
So
fun.
it'll be fun to have her on here.
That's awesome.
So, well, thank you, Kelli, for joining me
Thank
in
you for
this
inviting me.
for the second night.
That's okay. That's okay. I felt bad for you because you worked so hard to set everything up.
Yeah. Note to self, never install an update on the night you're supposed to go live.
Yeah.
That's the lesson that I learned. And I should have known that already. I just, habit has said there's an update, and I said, sure, install the update. And that made a mess of things. So, but thank you all for joining us tonight. Um, I hope you enjoyed the book, and I hope you enjoyed the conversation. And unless you have anything else, Kelli, I think that's all
I'm
I
good.
have. All right.
Thank you.
So thank you all for joining us, and I hope